This is CBC Here and Now.
I better get her out of the water. It's a safe place to be. It's easy to watch her right here.
From power boats to power lines, the Avalon gets ready for the wrath of Larry.
So the potential for damage caused by trees and limbs coming in contact with the power lines is our biggest concern.
Yep, make sure your devices are charged. Hurricane Larry is on the way with the strongest winds whipping the Avalon.
I'm Anthony Germain live at the Gander International Airport, where this community and every airport community in this province and the country gets set to mark 20 years since 9/11.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Carolyn Stokes. Big winds, big waves. People all over eastern Newfoundland are getting ready for Hurricane Larry. So with the storm just hours away, what do you need to do to prepare? Let's get right to Here and Now's Meg Roberts. She's live with the latest. So Meg, you've been speaking with officials. What are they telling you?
Well, it was a beautiful day today, but you can definitely feel that stormy weather coming in now. Rain is expected to start later this evening, progressing throughout the night. The hurricane is supposed to be very fast moving, but officials are telling people to take their time planning before this makes landfall.
Power it off. She's closed tight.
Here at the St. John's Harbor, plans are being made to hunker down. There's hope the storm won't be too bad, but no one's taking chances.
At least we're more prepared this time around than we were for Igor, I think.
All across the eastern part of the island, preparations are underway. Signs that were made to stay up, now coming down, and events being canceled. Officials say they're prepared to take on whatever blows in, clearing culverts, catch basins, and waterways of debris, and they're asking residents to do the same.
We would recommend that residents in the city are prepared to be able to be 72 hours on their own. So today is the day to make sure that all your devices are charged up. Make sure you have enough supplies, whether it be flashlights, batteries, food, medications. Make sure you have enough for 72 hours on your own.
St. John's Fire Department is also reminding people to only call 911 if it's an emergency. That does not include damage to property or power outages. Generators should be kept 5 feet away from any windows or doors, and don't use them in enclosed spaces like a garage. Make sure you have a carbon monoxide detector, and don't add fuel to the generator if it's hot.
This is not our first time around when it comes to these types of events. Emergency is our business, so it's nothing new to us. So we are ready and prepared for anything that comes.
Newfoundland Power says they have all staff on deck this weekend. Unlike Igor, rain won't be the issue. It will be the wind against the heavy leafy trees.
Yes, certainly. With the track of a hurricane, the strongest winds are on the, I'll call it the right-hand side or the eastern side. Higher elevations are going to get stronger winds. But we're more concerned with parts, probably the mature parts of St. John's and Mount Pearl metro area, where you have the larger trees that tower above the lines. If they break off and come down, they're going to take the line and the poles with them.
Newfoundland Power is encouraging people to stay inside until it is safe to come out tomorrow. Early tomorrow morning, they say they will be assessing the damage, and they will hopefully have an update for the public early afternoon. Carolyn.
Thanks so much, Meg. That's Here and Now's Meg Roberts reporting live. Well, the southern shore is expected to take the brunt of Hurricane Larry. Today in Bay Bulls, people weren't taking any chances there. They were getting their boats out of the water.
I'm up to keep my boat from getting smashed up in storm. I figured the safest place to have her is on land.
Well, we've been busy here all morning, Chris, getting boats out of the water. It's the storm coming, and for me this morning, my big boat came, and another fella came and had a crane here, so I took advantage of it. And a lot of the fishing boats have gone, and the tour boats have gone to St. John's, just to get away from this tremendous storm that's coming.
80 miles of wind could do a lot of damage, and it's supposed to gust to 140. So there's your 80 miles an hour. I'm still old school. I'm still miles, and I've run through the wreck house, and 80 miles can flick a tractor trailer bottom up. So that's why I'm out the water.
Bay Bulls is a bay, and there can be lots of, it's unpredictable. It's a safe harbour most of the time. But when you get a big storm, a big surge coming, there's going to be 7 to 10 metre waves with this. So, you can be sure that there'll be any boats that are left here will have lots of rope on them.
Well, the storm hasn't arrived here yet, but there has been a number of closures and cancellations, including one that will leave a few classic rock music fans a little disappointed. The organizers of Iceberg Alley made the tough decision last night to cancel its sold-out show tonight due to the extreme weather system associated with Hurricane Larry. Today, staff on the Big Top concert site were making sure the massive tent was secure before the heavy wind hits later tonight. The news comes as a bit of a blow for fans of April Wine, Honeymoon Suite, and the Northern Pikes. Organizers say information about refunds for tickets will be coming soon.
Well, the Canadian Hurricane Center had held their briefing a little bit earlier today, warning about Larry. Take a look at this before we get into the forecast.
It is still a very well-organized hurricane for this far north in terms of its latitude. We expect that the storm will continue to accelerate. It's already moving at 50 kilometers per hour. We expect some further acceleration towards Newfoundland over the next few hours.
And that was today at 1 o'clock. But of course, this is a developing situation. So here's where things stand now. We have Hurricane Larry, still a Category 1, moving very quickly towards Newfoundland and Labrador as we speak. We're already starting to see some of those outer rain bands show up on the Nova Scotia satellite there. There's the current winds right now. We've got 79 gusts, gusts of 79 kilometers per hour near the Scotian slope there. And we're seeing those winds picking up as well up across St. John's, now at about 54 kilometers per hour. So we do have that hurricane warning in effect right now for all of the Avalon, and then those tropical storm warnings now extending towards the Conagra Peninsula, Terra Nova, as well as Bonavista North. And accompanying that is some wind warnings. Right along with that, we have it for the Northern Peninsula, wind warnings and rainfall warnings along the coast of Labrador, and then those rainfall warnings for you from Happy Valley, Goose Bay through to Eagle River. Now, taking a look at the current track right now, it's pretty similar to what we saw yesterday, except the latest that I was just looking at looks like it's seeing a little bit of a shift a little bit further west. So that is going to change things from what we were talking about yesterday. Here's a look at the current potential for sustained winds of 63 kilometers per hour. It really encompasses all of those areas that are in that tropical storm warning. These are tropical storm force winds. It looks like because it's shifted a little bit further west, now Gander is in that risk as well. And then we look at the sustained winds of 93 kilometers per hour. This is a change as well. Yesterday, we were in the St. John's area. Right now, we're at about a 80 to 90% chance that we're going to see it, but it does look like the strongest winds now have shifted further west. Kept talking about that, how important that track is to where we see the strongest winds. Now this is where the potential to see the sustained winds of hurricane force. That's 119 plus kilometers per hour, and that's increasing as well. Looking like the southwest portion of the Avalon will likely see those sustained winds, and that's where we're going to see those gusts as well. So I'll show this one more time. The strongest winds on the right side of that track, and again, any shift, even overnight tonight, we're looking at a margin of error about 50 kilometers. And with that, say it tracks closer to St. John's, it pushes those winds offshore. If it tracks closer to the Burin Peninsula, it's going to pull those winds right along with it. So definitely something to keep an eye on. This I made just before that latest update. So now we're going to shift pretty much everything just to the west there, but still looking at that potential to see some gusts on the Avalon. That's where we will see the heaviest or the strongest winds rather as we head through the evening hours and overnight, starting at about 10 o'clock at night and then continuing through 6 a.m. We're looking at gusts. The best chance of seeing those 130 to 150 kilometer per hour gusts will be along the southern portion, but anywhere really in the pink could see anywhere from 110 to 140 kilometers per hour. Now those stronger wind gusts will not be widespread, they'll be more local, but that risk is certainly still there. Also, again with that westerly shift, we may start to see some of the areas in red be clipped by it. just to the west of that, we may see some stronger gusts. So certainly keep that in mind overnight tonight. And as far as that timing goes, as we get into 9, 10 o'clock tonight, that's when we're start to see some of those stronger gusts along the southern portion of the island, Burin Peninsula, southern Avalon. Quickly, as that system races further north, transitions to a tropical, post-tropical storm, we start to see those stronger wind gusts. Models still pointing at 140 to 150 kilometer per hour wind gusts possible, but that'll move through fairly quickly. By 4:30 in the morning, still into those gusts between 100 and 110, and then eventually that moves off. But as we head through the afternoon, again, still looking at wind gusts between 80 to 90 kilometers per hour. In some cases, more like 70 to 80 as the afternoon progresses. So if we do have power lines, are we going to be able to see the crews go up in those 80 kilometer per hour winds? Definitely something to think about as well. As far as that timing goes for the rain, we're looking at the majority of the rain right now falling up across parts of Labrador. As we head through 9, 10 o'clock again tonight, we're looking at those winds starting to move in for the the showers and heavy rain, even the risk of some thunderstorms tonight, move in overnight. So again, 10 to about 4 a.m. After that, that moves off, and we should actually start to see some sunshine as day breaks tomorrow morning rather. As far as that rainfall amount goes, looks like 10 to 20 millimeters, or rather 20 to 40 millimeters are possible for most areas through central through to the Avalon. And then we talk about that storm surge. So storm surge warning still in place from the Niagara Peninsula down through the southern Avalon. That will continue through most of the night tonight, and that's when it's going to coincide with some of those stronger waves. So we're looking at waves between 10 to 14 meters at this point. Storm surge potential certainly there, and then it doesn't quite coincide with the high tide, but it will be between 11 and 12:30 a.m., which will add to that. So that's a look at the latest. I'll have a little bit more details on the long-range forecast when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, CBC's storm coverage doesn't stop here. We'll hear more from Ashley later in the show, and she'll be on the National and Atlantic tonight, live with the latest on Larry. And starting at midnight, Chrissy Holmes is hosting special hurricane coverage on CBC Radio 1. And Jeremy Eaton will pick things up bright and early as we assess any damage. So we have you covered. So stay safe and stay with CBC. Now to some COVID news. There are 12 new confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the province from the last 2 days. The cases are all in the Eastern and Labrador-Grenfell health regions. In the Eastern region, 3 cases are related to travel within Canada. 2 are contacts of a previously known case, and 4 are still under investigation. The 3 cases in the Labrador-Grenfell region are all contacts of previous cases. Now, because of the new cases in the Eastern region, there are 11 new businesses in St. John's where people are being asked to get tested. The full list is on the government's COVID-19 website. Well, one man is dead following a head-on collision in Central around 9:30 yesterday morning. Police say a van crossed over the center line on a stretch of highway just outside Grand Falls, Windsor. According to the RCMP, the 33-year-old driver hit a commercial truck and was ejected from his van. The man died at the scene while the other driver was uninjured. The investigation is continuing. Well, there are big plans for the Stephenville Airport. Ottawa businessman Carl Diamond returned to his home province to announce that his company will spend hundreds of millions to buy the Stephenville Airport. He says he'll create thousands of jobs by turning the old American Air Base into a modern international airport and drone production plant.
So what we need to do is we need to build this logically. We need to build it strategically so that we're not having too much too quick. So our goal is to get commercial aviation coming in. We want to build a new terminal. With that, we're going to need workers to construct. We're going to need workers to man it. We're going to need workers to service aircraft that come in. Through that, over the next couple of years, we want to build at 250, 550, 700, 1,000, and up to 5,000 over the next couple of years to be able to employ everyone, but in a meaningful, strategic, and logical way.
2 decades ago, more than 6,000 passengers came through this airport. There was only one customs and immigration officer on duty that day. Some amazing stories about 9/11 20 years later after the break. 20 years ago, horror in the United States, humanity in Newfoundland and Labrador, 38 planes diverted to Gander, more than 24 in St. John's, Stephenville, Deer Lake, Happy Valley, Goose Bay. It affected the entire province, and the success of what happened here 20 years ago was all based on volunteers.
My name is Teresa Antonietti Niebury, and on September the 11th, I was the church secretary at the Salvation Army in Gambo. There was a group of people, 198 passengers, who arrived in the town of Gambo who were total strangers and who became automatically our friends. Where are we going to get enough blankets and pillows for these people? How long are they actually going to stay? Those were questions that were going through my mind, and like, what are we going to do to feed them? Which every Newfoundlander, I'm sure, thinks about when somebody comes in their house, what am I going to feed them? It was no different as if it was my family coming to visit from St. John's. What am I going to feed them as these strangers coming to our church? The church was so robust for that week with so many people, and not only just the 198 passengers, but we had a lot of local people who would come each evening, like, to provide entertainment. And some of the passengers from the plane, like, there was a really well-known artist, Julian Dawson, who played guitar, and he would sing and play every night to provide something other than just sitting and talking, and because there's not a lot of things to do here in the town other than just go for a walk. And so we would try to provide some kind of entertainment each and every night for them. When it stopped, it was completely empty. We were lost. Like, it was like, what are we supposed to do now? And that Sunday when we came back to worship, it was like we were really missing a large part of our family, of our church family. I think we all can say that we gave everything that we could possibly give because it was so natural for us to give. It is just something we pride ourselves in, and as being community people, being people of Newfoundland, it is one thing that we are proud of, is that we are hospitable, we're loving, and we always love to see people come.
That's just one of the wonderful stories that my colleague Garrett Barry, our reporter in Gander, has prepared for us, and Garrett will join us a bit later in Here and Now. But I want to introduce you to two guests who are going to help me tomorrow on our national special. I'm glad you guys could be here tonight. Gina Brown and Brian Mosier, good to have you here. It's such a strange day in so many ways. Hard to believe it's 20 years. On the one hand, you have a crime against humanity happening in the United States, and yet here there's almost a feeling of pride. How do you reconcile the two sides of 9/11, Gina?
I think for us it was a very different experience. What a lot of people talk about is when it comes to Gander and what happened here and the surrounding areas is it's really a 9/12 kind of story. It's what happened after the tragedy, and having spoken to a lot of people who've come to this area is that what they find when they come here is a sense of healing. And so I think for us it's this idea of the ideal that was set by the people and
right.
how they reached out and helped, and how that becomes the legacy of what goes forward.
So Brian, your thoughts? I mean, you're an educator, you were very busy with the College of North Atlantic here 20 years ago. What do you think about?
It's hard to believe it's been 20 years, 2 decades. Kids that were graduating school this year weren't even born, wouldn't be born for another 2 years. We look back, it's, as I've said so many times, it's gone from current affairs now to modern history. We've actually, made that amount of time go by us. But yet at the same time, these are the moments in our lives that none of us who were on the ground at the time will ever forget.
Yeah. Right.
The details are fresh.
And I guess it's important to point out, I mean, Gander certainly gets a lot of attention, and we're delighted to be here at the International Airport here, but it's also important, it's really a much bigger story than just the community of Gander. There's so many outlying communities, Appleton and others. What are your thoughts about the way it's spread from Gander? With 6,000 people sent here in just 3 hours, almost doubling the population. What do you make of the whole commitment from the island in particular?
I think, what happened here in the surrounding areas is pervasive all in Newfoundland and Labrador. It's what's in our DNA. It's this idea of when you're in a place of crisis, do you retreat and look at self-preservation, or do you take that energy and give it and try to help others? And that's how we've survived as Newfoundlanders and Labradorian, is by pulling together and getting through the hard times. And I think, that's just what we do.
Brian, any sharp memories stand out for you 20 years later?
Just the sheer amount of food that was brought in from people's homes. I mean, you talk the ultimate hot and cold buffet. Imagine that well, I was going to say 24/7, but it's actually 24/5 because it was for 5 days.
5 days.
At 3 o'clock in the morning, you could have a hot meal and table after table after table, and people clearing spaces to make room for more.
Right.
I
look forward to talking to you both tomorrow, our national special tomorrow night. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you again tomorrow.
Absolutely.
See you tomorrow.
All right, Brian Mosier, Gina Brown will be with me tomorrow, and you can catch that special. That's at 6 o'clock Island time, 6:30 Island time, I should say, half an hour earlier in most parts of Labrador.
My name is Law Power. I'm the staff sergeant, retired from the RCMP. And at that time of 9/11, I was one of the detachment supervisors at Stephenville Bay St. George District Detachment on that day. Well, we were quite busy for the week. We had a lot of support from the Salvation Army, the Canadian Red Cross, Canadian Border and Security. All the businesses in Stephenville stepped up, provided food, and we launched accommodations. The residents of Stephenville stepped up and the surrounding areas. We provided accommodations all over Western Newfoundland for them. There were RCMP members brought in from all over Western Newfoundland to provide support at the airport. And everybody stepped up and got their jobs done well. But congratulations to go out to the residents of the West Coast who supported the 3,000 passengers and the 8 aircraft that we managed to have to deal with in Stephenville at the time.
To the town folks of Gander. Hello, my name is Sophia DeRudy and I am a senior at Leland High School. I wanted to share my appreciation for the kindness you demonstrated after 9/11.
Even though I was born years after 9/11, hearing your compassion for all of us brings a warmness to my heart.
When people were struggling and felt hopeless, you all provided hope for those who needed it most.
We will always remember all that you've done for us with great honor and gratitude. Jasper.
name is Larry Pittman. My role during September 11th was the airport manager for the Goose Bay Airport Corporation. Once we got the word that we're expecting a lot of aircraft and a lot of passengers, we reached out to the community. They closed the schools. The community organizations got together and started coordinating where we're going to host the passengers and how we're going to feed them and all that kind of stuff. So that went on for several hours during that day. The amount of planning that goes into it is astronomical, and the community stepped forward, showing their compassion for the passengers, and were absolutely fantastic and couldn't have done it without them. The residents of Happy Valley Goose Bay and all of the organizations federally and provincially and civic-minded organizations wouldn't be able to do it without them.
Interesting fact about Happy Valley Goose Bay during 9/11, there were so many planes, hundreds of American planes in the sky. At one point, they were planning for 200 planes to land in Happy Valley Goose Bay because there was so much chaos. As you know, that did not happen, but there was such a chaotic day with so many people from so many countries landing right here. Now, my colleague Garrett Barry has been talking to many people who helped the plane people, as they're called. So Garrett, what did you take away from all of your interviews?
I think what I'm going to remember about this and all the interviews that we did over the course of preparing the show is just how much emotional investment there was from the volunteers into what was going on. Of course, yeah, logistically it was really hard, but there's also all these complicated emotions. You heard earlier in the show from Teresa Antonietti. She was a volunteer at the Salvation Army Church in Gambo. And there, you know, I just want you to imagine you're in her shoes. You know, you're a church volunteer, and all of a sudden there's 200 extra people in your church, and you're eating with them, you're talking with them, you're developing relationships with them, you're singing with them, and then all of a sudden, you know, they go away, and there's this kind of eerie quiet, and there's this emptiness and lonesome feeling around. That feeling, that emotional investment was everywhere right across the province. We know in Goose Bay, we know in Gander, we know in Gambo, and as we're about to hear, in Appleton as well.
Hi, my name is Betty Mullally Moulton, and I'm from Gander, Newfoundland. September the 11th, I was a social worker working with the Military Family Resource Centre and 9-1 Gander. This level of preparedness was something that had been accumulated for decades in Gander, from airplane crashes back to Sabina, to the Czech airplane crash, and to the Aero airplane crash, where we developed systems such as the emergency operations centers that would be activated at the airport. We built up our partnerships, and we built the capacity to respond to any large-scale emergency. Between, you know, the mid-80s to the early 90s, there were thousands of refugees who came into Gander.
We're coming to Canada.
We were the first point of entry from Europe. So because of the refueling stopovers, they were able to deplane, you know, with the intention of, you know, just picking up a snack or just stretching their legs. But these individuals who decided well in advance that they wanted to seek asylum often hid out in bathrooms. They sought out the RCMP and other airport authority staff and requested asylum in Canada.
You want to see an immigration officer?
There was probably 5 to 6 flights a week coming into Gander. These refugees were from, you know, countries that spoke different languaes than what we did. They had different cultural backgrounds, they had different religious ideologies, but they were greeted in such a respected and caring manner. And I think that's important for people to recognise, that while we didn't anticipate, and nor could we ever anticipate such an event such as 9/11, there was always a community capacity that was built over decades that allowed us to not only welcome and provide kindness and caring and social integration, but also to coordinate a large-scale response in a very short time frame.
So you heard a little bit there about the history of Gander and just how much goes into making these plans. Yeah, it seems easy, but there's a lot of work into it. And I think the other thing that really stuck out to me, Anthony, is after all those passengers from all over the world came, they went, and so many you don't hear from again. Some people were able to have the means, the language skills to develop long-term connections, but others, you know, you don't know where they ended up. It's a memory, and some of the volunteers I spoke to say, you know, I wonder sometimes, what happened to everyone? Where were they going, and what happened to them after?
Okay. Garrett, appreciate that. Great work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
CBC's Garrett Barry. Now, you heard Garrett mention history. For many people, 9/11, 20 years later, it is history.
Dear town folks of Gander, my name is Lauren Hartke and I'm a senior this year at Leland High School. I wrote you all last year, but I would like to write you once again to say thank you for all you did on 9/11.
While the pains of this event sting a full 2 decades later, the actions you have all made to save innocent lives will forever be appreciated and treasured.
With your open arms, you were able to give these people a home when they were scared and unsure of what was happening next.
You have my sincerest gratitude for all of your kindness and courage. Amber Hywen.
Yeah, hi, my name is Tom Badcock. I was the executive director of the hub back then. We provided the accommodations for approximately 100 people. Probably my most vivid memory was the fact that after the first night, I called the community to if they would take people out. So we let all of our people go except for one lady. I think she was 84. she didn't speak any English, and I speak French, and she wouldn't leave my side. So she slept in my office for the full, I think it was 3 nights, and she wouldn't move, she wouldn't go anywhere because she needed somebody to talk to and to let her know what was going on. So that's probably my most vivid memory. All of us wanted these people to feel as comfortable as they could because of this. You know, they were going through a terribly traumatic time, and I think all of us responded in a way that Newfoundlanders and Labradorians always do in those type of emergencies.
Well, obviously there were people from all over the world, as we talked, 95 countries, but many of them were from the United States of America. We have the Deputy Ambassador from the United States, Catherine Drucker, with us right now. Ms. Drucker, why did you want to be here for the 20th year of remembering 9/11?
Well, so many people in the United States know what everybody in Gander did for the many Americans who descended upon the city that day. And so for me, it's really just a personal privilege to be here to meet the many Ganderites who housed people in their houses and in their schools and in their churches and did so much for so many frightened Americans who were stranded here in Newfoundland and Labrador during 9/11.
Do you remember where you were when all this happened?
Yes, I was in Vienna, and it was quite interesting. It was late in the afternoon. We heard about the plane. We thought it was just a small plane that might have flown into one of the towers, and then of course very quickly learned the truth of it and watched everything unfold on live TV.
You think about the special relationship between Canada and the United States through our history from 9/11 and now 20 years later, pandemic, which has stopped Americans and Canadians from interacting as normal. What are your thoughts about the status of our relationship now, particularly with a new president and Mr. Biden?
Well, I think the relationship really is rock solid. I mean, we have so many interests with Canadians, with so much back and forth, as you were just mentioning, Americans and Canadians on both sides of the border. Many of our families are linked. And, you know, the Biden administration is very interested in continuing this relationship with Canada. And, you know, we have. I mean, even throughout the pandemic, you know, one of the lessons of 9/11 is don't shut the border. And we managed to keep that open during the entire pandemic. We kept trade and essential travel going. And I have great hope for the future of the relationship in any event, but certainly now in the Biden-Harris administration.
All right, Ms. Drucker, appreciate you finding time for Here and Now. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
All right, Catherine Drucker, the top diplomat, the deputy diplomat, the assistant diplomat here in Canada for the United States.
Hi, my name is Sheila Coates. On September 11th, I was living in Appleton in central Newfoundland. The passengers on those flights were not necessarily all Americans. In fact, for several that we had at the hall, English wasn't their first language or their second language, or for some of them it wasn't a language that they had any facility in at all. There was one man, the guy in the white shirt, again, I have no idea what his name was, 40-ish man, and you know, he seemed to be sort of wandering around on his own as well. And of course, I'm trying to communicate with him, and it's not happening. He's just smiling and nodding at me. I remembered a family in Gander who had immigrated here post-war. He had worked at the airport. So I asked Mr. Manco if he could come out to Appleton, just cold called him. He found me, and we went over to this gentleman, and I asked Mr. Manco, could you speak to him? Could you try to say hi? And he did. And this gentleman, his eyes lit up. I mean, I have shivers even still thinking about that moment. And they reached out and held each other's hands for the longest time, and like he was talking to somebody who knew everything he was saying. So Mr. Manco said, so what do you want? What do you want to say to him? And I said, just ask him, is he okay? Is he hungry? Does he need to go over to my house? Does he need a shower? Does he need to call somebody? Does he need to go somewhere? And from that moment on, that man in the white shirt, every time he saw me, he put his hand up on his heart. He was over watching another couple gentlemen play chess, so I ran to a friend's house and got a chessboard. And of course, it's the only way he could really say thank you to me. The night that they all left, they had the windows down on the bus, and the rain was pouring over the windows, and the last thing that I can think from that night was that gentleman from Northern Europe on the bus with his hand up on his chest saying goodbye to me. And I remember after the last bus left, we came back in the hall and we all sat here and we just hugged each other and cried.
Just think of those stories, the hand on your heart, so many emotional stories, so many stories. Heather Barrett, my colleague, will have more about 20 years later after 9/11. Heather?
Absolutely. There's so many communities in the Gander area who helped out in that effort, and that's why Weekend AM is broadcasting from Appleton tomorrow morning. We're going to be at the home of Derm and Diane Flynn, and we're going to be talking to people from the surrounding communities who helped out in those days right after that event. And we're going to meet some people from away who have deep connections to this area because of the events of 20 years ago.
So if I know the people of Appleton, you'll be there early in the morning, you might get some of the food or sample some of the food that they served out 20 years ago.
I am told there's hot breakfast waiting for the crew when we get there.
Okay.
Now, I have to remind you too that we're also going to keep you up to date on the aftermath of Hurricane Larry as well.
Okay, perfect. Have a great show tomorrow.
Oh, thank you.
Heather Barrett, if you're about to tune in to CBC Radio 1 tomorrow, well, as we spoke about this evening, many people grateful for what happened in Gander, grateful what happened in Newfoundland and Labrador. Thank you for watching. Don't forget tomorrow a national special, 6:30 Island time, 6 o'clock in most parts of Labrador. We have some different stories from different people to share about an incredible day 20 years ago.
Hi from Reno, Nevada. My name is Kelly Russell and I was on United Flight 929 on September 11th, 20 years ago.
Well, greetings from Auckland, New Zealand. My name is Elias Canaris and I was on United Airlines flight UA 929.
Hi, my name is Carrie and I was flying from Dublin, Ireland to Newark, New Jersey on September 11th.
Hello, my name is Stephen Brecker and on 9/11 I was on Virgin Atlantic flight VS21.
Hi, my name is Lynn. I'm from Glasgow in Scotland. I was travelling by myself to Chicago when I landed in Gander.
We're Billy, Beth, and Deanna Wakefield from Tennessee, and we were on day 26 of our adoption trip on September 11th of 2001, and just before U.S. airspace we were diverted to Gander.
I felt then, as I do now, that on that day we experienced the worst and the best of humanity. And 20 years later, all I want to say is thank you, Gander.
I think of you often. You treated us with utmost kindness and opened your homes and your hearts to us, and for that I deeply, deeply thank you.
And they didn't care about color, religion, and anything. They just were there to help.
If it wasn't for you giving up your time, giving up your food and your homes to us, we would have crumbled.
In amongst all the craziness, all I can ever remember feeling was safe and looked after.
In some ways, obviously it was the worst time for everybody, but they made a bad time much better for us, so we really do appreciate everything.
Anyone I meet till this day, I always tell them the story about my time in Glenwood and in Gander and how fabulous the people were. And I still get choked up thinking about the kindness that was shown to me. And I just want to say thank you to everyone in Gander and Glenwood.
Thanks for everything.
We appreciate you so much. Bye for now.
Your kindness and generosity has never been forgotten.
Thank you so much, and take care.
Still tracking Hurricane Larry. Some of the buoys now, 104 km/h wind gusts. We're going to look ahead to the long-range forecast when I come back.
Time to find out who's celebrating. Happy 52nd anniversary to Harry and Joan Ackerman from Centerville, Bonavista Bay. Congratulations to Jack and Barb Taylor of Paradise on their 62nd anniversary. Best wishes to John and Thelma Brake. They're celebrating their 58th anniversary. Happy 54th wedding anniversary to Max and Sylvia Downey of St. John's. Happy 56th anniversary to Ivan and Glenda Penny from Milton. Congratulations to George and Betty Lethbridge of Mount Pearl on their 60th wedding anniversary. Happy 58th anniversary to Gerald and Rosanna Fudge of Ramia. Anniversary greetings going out to Bert and Marina Short, who are celebrating their 62nd anniversary. Wishing Josh and Ruby Shea from St. John's a happy 59th wedding anniversary. Happy anniversary to Michael and Donna Power of Paradise. They've been married for 60 years. Happy anniversary to Patty and Mildred Parsons of Fortune, who are celebrating their 50th anniversary. Happy 50th anniversary also to Nellie and Clarence Strobridge in Pasadena. Happy 63rd anniversary to Ernest and Elizabeth Wheeler of Mount Pearl. 55th wedding anniversary greetings going out to Elizabeth and Harlow Snippen. Happy 60th wedding anniversary to Jean and Aubrey Penny of Springdale. Now to some birthdays. Happy birthday to Edna Pollitt of New Harbor, who recently turned 91. Happy 92nd birthday to Nina West of Baillargent, now living in St. Lawrence. Birthday wishes going out to Leslie Roberts from St. Paul's River in Quebec. He turns 91 tomorrow. Happy 98th birthday to Pearl McDonald. We're told she's the oldest resident of Hermitage, Sandyville. Wishing Shirley Newell of Corner Brook a happy 90th birthday. Happy 90th birthday also to George Hawkins from Greens Pond, now living in Gander. Happy 93rd birthday to Doris Bowers of Springdale. Birthday greetings going out to Mary McDonald from Corner Brook. She just turned 91. Birthday wishes going out to Norman Wyatt of Pilley's Island on his 90th birthday. Happy 90th birthday also to Walter Frost of Hillview. Happy birthday to Doris Pryor of Grand Bank, now living in Paradise. She turns 95 tomorrow. Happy 90th birthday to Theo Wells of Hare Bay from your family in Newfoundland, Alberta, and Australia. Birthday greetings going out to Marie Lennon of Bishops Falls. She just turned 95. Happy birthday to Bert Paddock. He's also turning 95. Happy 92nd birthday to Douglas Perrell of Sandy Cove, now living in St. John's. Happy birthday to Edith Hedge, who's celebrating her 90th birthday. She's from Stephenville and now lives in Deer Lake. Another fine-looking crowd. Congratulations once again. Well, what a busy night we've had. Hurricane Larry, 9/11, but don't forget the federal election is just 10 days away. Advance polls have opened across the country today. The pandemic means things will be different for voters this time around. CBC's Meg Roberts takes a look at the options for Canadians casting a ballot.
It's going to be one of the most unique elections to date. Canadians are going to the polls in the middle of a pandemic. Now, it's hard to tell what election day will look like, so if you want to vote but don't feel comfortable doing it the day of, we've got you covered. First of all, the basics. You have to be 18 years or older to vote, and you have to be a Canadian citizen. If you fit that criteria, you're good to go. The first option, and one that might be most familiar to Canadians, advance polls. Those start on September 10th and run until the 13th. Now, to find the address and time of an advance poll open near you, you can check your voter information card, or you can go on Election Canada's website. If you're not comfortable seeing or speaking to anyone during this election process in this pandemic election, most Canadians have an option for that too. You can request a special ballot that will be mailed to your home. The ballot will have a blank space. Write the name of the candidate you're voting for. Your vote won't count if you just write the party's name. Mail it back using a pre-addressed return envelope provided in your voting kit. The marked ballot has to make it to Election Canada before polls close on September 20th. But you can also drop it off in a ballot box at any polling station in your riding on Election Day. If you feel like this is the best option for you, you have until September 14th to apply for a special ballot, so you better get on it soon. Lastly, and maybe the easiest option, you can pop into your local Elections Canada office during opening hours anytime before September 14th at 6 p.m. All you need is your address and identification, and you'll fill out a special ballot. These voting options might ease some pandemic-related concerns, and you're not alone in feeling that way. Elections Canada expects 2 to 3 million electors to vote by special ballot, mainly by mail. No matter what your thoughts are on the timing of this election, it's important on September 20th that you get your say. Meg Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, taking a look at the current satellite and radar for Hurricane Larry, we've got the wind starting to approach one of the buoys just to the south of Newfoundland, already showing gusts of 104 kilometers per hour, and those outer-bound rain bands as well. Now, that is what's headed towards Newfoundland and Labrador as we head through the night tonight. Just a little bit of a timeline to share with you here. St. John's metro area looking at showers or drizzle starting around 10 o'clock and then intensifying as we get into the evening, the midnight hour towards about 4 a.m. Looking at periods of heavy rain, we could see upwards of 20, maybe even 40 millimeters for the metro area. And then we're looking at those winds. Southerly winds gusting, sustained 80, 90 kilometers per hour, but gusting upwards of 130, 140 in some of those exposed areas as well. By the time we get into the morning hours, we'll see a mix of sun and cloud, but those winds are going to stay brisk through the day tomorrow. Similar timeline, except we'll see that rain start a little bit sooner for the Clarenville area, and then Bonavista North, you'll see that as you get towards the 2 to 4 a.m. range, and you're looking at those winds just a little less. Easterlies gusting about 60 to 80 kilometers per hour, and you could see gusts around 100 kilometers per hour in some of those exposed areas. As we get into Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, like I said, those winds are going to stay brisk. Looking at that chance of showers in the morning, and then we should see some clearing, some lingering cloud cover and showers, though, for the west coast. Up across Labrador, you're looking at temperatures around 11 to 12 degrees, a little cooler for Nain at 9 for your afternoon. So we should see some sunshine in the St. John's area on Saturday, which will be nice if we do have to do some cleanup. As we head into Sunday, beautiful day, 20 degrees for St. John's, 22 in Grand Falls, Windsor. Gonna see that chance of showers creep in though for the west coast, and then cool up across Labrador again. Single digit highs, 5 degrees in Nain, 10 in Happy Valley, Goose Bay. And as we get into Monday, we're going to see some periods of rain move back in. 20 degrees for St. John's, 17 for Corner Brook, and then those single digit highs again for Labrador. Tuesday, Wednesday, looking gorgeous. 14 to 16 degrees with the overnight lows dipping into the single digits. Yes, we're about to get there and going to continue to see those temperatures drop more than likely. For central Newfoundland, some cloudy skies on Tuesday. Wednesday looks nice. Chance of showers will continue for western Newfoundland. And then as we get into Labrador, looking like a gray week for eastern Labrador. And then for the west, some sunshine on Tuesday, but a return to those temperatures on Wednesday. Look at your overnight lows. Dip into -1. We may see some wet snow on Sunday night. I wanted to share this photo, the calm before the storm. This was actually taken the day before yesterday, but my computer crashed and I couldn't show it to you. So Tim Knoll shared this one from Carboneer. Thank you so much. If you have any weather photos to share with us, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
What a great shot. Well, that's it. It won't be long now. Larry will be here. So everyone stay safe tonight. Stay home and stay safe.
Yeah, keep an eye on my social media for updates as well. I will be up more than likely throughout the night.
Yes, you will. You're going to be late. You're going to be on the National as well and Atlantic tonight.
Yeah.
So that's it for us. Good night.